Hey guys, welcome back to For Your Reference. We're starting off with Quid Pro Mo, and we had the pleasure of having Brandy and Sunny onto our podcast this week. Thank you so much for coming on, and also happy early birthday to Brandy.
Happy birthday.
Now let's get on to the show.
Hi, I'm Sunny Hepburn.
And I'm Brandy Fleeks.
And this is
Book of Lies,
the podcast, where we discuss liars, cheats, and thieves,
scammers, and dirty rotten scoundrels.
So tune in for new episodes every Tuesday to hear about another low-down dirty liar.
And learn how to spot them.
So that's Book of Lies podcast. Find us on your favorite podcast player or on Twitter at Book of Lies Pod, on Instagram at Book of Lies Podcast, and on Facebook at Book of Lies Podcast.
And if you want to send us an email, send us one at bookofliespodcast@gmail.com.
Okay?
Bye-bye.
Hey friends and lovers, welcome back to For Your Reference. You've got your host KT.
And OT.
And we have got a colossal, epic, problematic episode today. And we needed to bring the experts, a book, if you will. Can you please introduce yourselves?
Yes, absolutely. This is Brandy Fleeks,
And this is Sunny Hepburn.
and we're from
Book of Lies.
Oh, I love that. OT, we need to get onto that.
Yeah,
we need
we do.
to have a sync, like we need to have a little jingle going
Get
on.
in sync.
Well, thank you so much for joining us on this particular episode. If you guys, For Your Reference listeners, if you haven't checked out Book of Lies, first of all, how dare you? How dare you? Where have you been? Definitely check them out. We'll put the links in the show notes. But this is kind of their realm. This is where they live. So I'm pretty sure we've got some fact checkers for today. So let's get started. Let's go into the stats. This is a film based on a book by Michael Lewis of the same name called The Big Short. It's a film that came out in 2015, directed by Adam McKay. And just a little snapshot of the cast. We have Christian Bale, who plays Dr. Burry. We have Steve Carell, who plays Mark Baum. And we also have Ryan Gosling, who plays Jared Bennett. And obviously, I need to mention Brad Pitt, who plays Ben. I know. How dare I? How dare I?
How dare you?
The budget was $28 million, and it grossed $133.3 million worldwide.
Wow.
That's a lot of bonds.
That's a lot of bonds.
It's a lot of
shorted.
It's a lot of bonds to break, unfortunately. So let's get into it. Let's get into first impressions. Book of Lies. The ladies that control and handle all of the liars.
I wish I could control liars.
Give us a little tasting. Give us a little backdrop. In regards to 2008, what happened, what was going on in your lives, where were we?
So sorry. She looked at me real sideways.
I didn't look at you sideways.
She-
I was just saying, just start talking.
I will start talking. She looked at me sideways. Anyway, so in 2008, I was actually still living up in the Bay Area. I was working in Silicon Valley and Palo Alto. I was working for a website company. And I decided for some reason that I wanted to move back home. And I was after a dude, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And I moved back home. I quit my job. I happened to cash out my 401k just because I was young and dumb. And I was like, ooh, look at this money. And when I moved back home, I was in like the LA market. It was a different market. And then the market had crashed.
Mm-hmm.
And it was so hard to find a job, a decent job, a nice job, a job that, I felt I was, that met my my experience and my skills. There was just no jobs out there. I had to take a job like in a call center, a shady call center, and that was just it. That was the status quo.
I think all call centers come in the shady sort of variety.
They do.
A little shady. What about you, Brandy?
Yeah. So in 2008, I was working at a furniture store, and I was also going to school, working toward my journalism degree. And I remember it was also an election year. So I remember a lot of people coming into the furniture store, and of course they would use their tax money to make, like, basically to refurnish their whole houses. But a lot of people were leaving. They were moving out of houses, and so they were buying smaller furniture that would fit into apartments. And there were a lot of vacant houses. I remember a lot of vacant houses everywhere.
Oh.
And so, like, there were houses that were for sale, but there were houses that just sat empty.
People just walked away from them.
Yeah, people walked away from their houses, or they were foreclosed on. And so people were basically like moving from houses into apartments.
Wow.
So yeah, that was my 2008.
That's crazy. And I think because even in Australia, we didn't really understand what was happening. It was kind of just like headlines after headlines, something bad's happening, but we don't really understand what's going on. Did that hit Kenya at all?
Well, we saw it on the news, definitely, but it wasn't. It was more like every day in Kenya is struggle street. So
It's a different struggle, yeah.
yeah, so it's not really going to affect you that much in terms of your day-to-day challenges, but we definitely saw the news and we were aware of what was happening.
Yeah, and I think because well, at least from the film, they were saying millions of jobs were lost and millions of people lost their homes, and I think it was as a non-American, I think it was a good time to let people deal with their stuff and then bring this movie out. Like, it shouldn't have come out straight after all of this shit happened, right?
Oh no, especially because that was an election year, so people were blaming the government. George Bush was basically, he was leaving office, and Barack Obama was just elected at the end of the year. So there was like a lot of shit happening, and then right after, they bailed out the banks. So the banks basically didn't get punished. Nobody got punished except one dude who nobody knew. And it was just like, that whole year was like, it was a struggle for most people.
But that's what I always say, with the movie The Purge, how people are going out and killing the neighbor that they've hated for years. I would go and commit white collar crime. That's what I would be doing during The Purge, so I can rack up all that money.
Give me the money.
Yeah, just a question, Sunny, in regards to the 401k. I think that's what Australians would call like a superannuation account.
Yes.
Like when you retire, that's like the money that you'll have to live off. So you can actually take money from there before you retire. Is that a thing?
Oh, yeah. Oh. It's my money. I can do whatever the fuck I want to do with it.
But you don't get all of it.
You have to just pay a tax. You have to pay a penalty on it. So it's a higher, because like in your 401k, you don't pay taxes on it.
Yeah.
So it's just money that's sitting there. But if you take it out before you retire, you have to pay a tax on it.
Oh, yeah, because we're not allowed to touch it here.
We have Social Security, so that's what when you hit a certain age, you can start collecting your Social Security. I think that's more like the superannuation.
The superannuation. Yes.
I wish my annuation was more super, but it is what it is, I'm counting my pennies that are in there, and it's fine.
Count those ducats.
Yeah, no, the 401k is it's like a separate account that you pay into to go on top of your Social Security once you retire.
Yeah.
And if you work for a good company, they'll match you on certain, levels or amount of money. So it's like, you know, you put in this money, and if you have so much money in, they're like, okay, here's $2,000 for free for the year. Have a great day.
Yeah.
And in 2008, a lot of people lost their 401ks.
So I took my shit out. I was like, give me my money.
Yeah. The companies and the banks that held the 401ks, they lost all that money that they had in there.
Yeah, so I guess any sort of experience was on like a human level. There wasn't really that big sort of picture of this is actually happening to millions of people. Sort of thing. Right?
Nobody really realized how big it was until it was too late.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's get straight into the film because we're already pretty much talking about it already. Feel free to add more facts because I really have a very simplistic sort of understanding of how this works. But we have Ryan Gosling's character who is the narrator.
He didn't look good in this movie.
Remember what I told you? Like he has the dark hair. He's got the brown contacts.
Blech.
I don't find him conventionally handsome, and it's not because OT's in the room. I just don't see it. I don't see it. But you know, power to you, power to all the Ryan Gosling fans.
When it has his shirts off.
And you know what? OT has actually watched The Notebook, and I haven't. Sorry, I'm exposing you.
I've never seen it either. I'm with you, KT. I've never seen it.
Blasphemy!
It is blasphemy.
No, blasphemy is you watching it by yourself. Is that what those tissues were for, OT?
Yes.
Are these happy tissues or sad tissues?
I think they start off one way and they turn off another way. So Ryan Gosling is narrating the film, and we pretty much get introduced to the characters as we go along the way. Brandy and Sunny, actually, do you want to choose someone specifically we can start talking about? Who's your
my favorite character is Mark Baum, played by Steve Carell, who is
Carell.
Whatever. This is my favorite character that he's ever played. And he puts on that voice, that high-pitched Jewish voice. And he's an angry man, but he hates seeing injustice. I love it.
I think that's quite an interesting. Oh no, I think Little Miss Sunshine might have come out before this, but this is in the time where Steve Carell had left The Office and he was starting to take on more serious sort of roles. I did enjoy him, but I also can't disassociate him from Michael Scott.
Yeah, it just seemed like Michael Scott's talking intelligent things.
And I think pretty much everyone has watched The Office, and he writes this little espionage where he's like a spy and his wife is Catherine Zeta-Jones.
Michael's Khan.
Yeah. So when he said something serious, I was waiting for some ridiculous line, like for him to say something sort
waiting
of
for the comedic relief.
Yeah, but and he has a
didn't
goofy...
smile once in this whole
No,
movie.
he didn't. He was very angry. He like didn't trust anybody. He looked for the fault in everything, which I respected. He was just like, you know, let me investigate it. Let me make sure this is factual. I knew you were a fucking asshole. Moving on.
Yeah, and I think what Steve Carell had going for him is his voice had that sort of vulnerability in him, so you actually were rooting for him. So he was a dick.
Mm-hmm.
He was a dick to the people that should have been dicks to, right?
Yeah.
Right.
But he did have that humanity about him, and the fact that he was struggling, with not, in his opinion, not helping his brother. That was also an underlying theme for the film as well. We also didn't mention spoilers, but you know, it's spoilers.
Come on, you had 4 years to watch it?
Yeah, a long time. But I feel like he was one of the stronger characters, definitely, at least to bring that human sort of element back to the movie.
Otherwise, it would have made this movie really, really cringy and hateable because, the fact that people went around knowing that everything is shit from the banks, including the bonds. You know, when you're investing, like the bonds are those things that you just put your money in knowing that it won't tank.
Yeah.
And the fact that those bonds are made up of crap real estate and just...
Well, that's let me bring you to my character. So, Christian Bale,
Michael Berry.
Dr. Michael Berry. He was so kooky, but he was just first of all, he had a glass eye.
These are real people, by the way.
These are real people, but I'll tell you. Anyway, hang on. So Christian Bale, he just comes off like super awkward, socially awkward. He's talking to that guy. He's giving him his backstory. He's going deep. I thought he was like in therapy when he first was introduced. And he's in an interview. Yeah. He's interviewing a kid for a job. And the guy's like, do I get the job? So the Christian Bale, he finds the fault. He knew the market was going to crash. He looked in the numbers. He was like, remember when the market crashed 30 years ago? Find out what's in these bonds. So then he looks at the bonds, he evaluates everything, and he's like, this is garbage. This is bullshit. This is where we can make money. And then it kind of snowballs from there.
But, and he's Michael Burry in real life is on the spectrum.
Of course. Duh.
So he's not looking at it from a humanistic point of view. Like,
true, he's been entrusted to get people their money.
Yeah, he's an investment guy.
He's kind of like Madoff.
No,
I'm just saying like his job. He's an investment broker. He's investing his clients' money into places where they will make money. So, there's a part in the movie, spoiler, where they're like, give us our fucking money. Give us our money.
He's like, no.
But I guess, for most people that are savants or people that are experts in a particular field, they usually, in lieu of human sort of soft skills, they have their specialized sort of skill. And he was all about the numbers, right? And correct me if I'm wrong, but from the point of the film, he was the first one to discover it because he was the first one to actually lay everything out there and see from the banks, from the credit sort of ratings and that sort of thing, he was able to see where it was going or where it wasn't going.
Right. And everyone thought he was bonkers for it.
He invested $1.3 billion of his investors' monies into, what were they called?
Banks. It was the banks, the actual banks that held the mortgages.
But he got them to create the bond, the short bond.
Yeah,
that didn't exist prior to that.
Yeah. They were like, yeah, we'll take your fucking money.
Exactly. We'll take your money. You're crazy. And then he's thinking, you guys are fucking screwed.
But I absolutely loved it because when the executives came in and they're like, you need to pull it out, bring my money back. I want my money back. He's like, screw you guys. I've got it in the contract. You can't do anything about it.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, let me think about that.
And yeah, exactly. And it's one of those things, right? And I guess for him to not really care or not really focus on that sort of element, you really need to back yourself to really have this sort of to foresee something like this and to not be influenced by especially pressures from higher up. You really need to back yourself. So good for him.
True, but there were moments in the movie where he was actually doubting himself because it kept on going up regardless of whether the bonds were crap or not.
I don't think he was doubting himself because
he didn't understand why it continued going up. And
because this is going to shit.
Exactly.
It should the bottom should drop out and it's not dropping. And what's the problem? Like what's happening?
And that was because the banks were hiding that shit.
They were hiding it.
Yep.
And they tried to hide it as long as they could.
Exactly. And so let's bring everyone along the journey for the movie before we talk about what happens midway through. So we've talked about Steve Carell's character. We've talked about Dr. Burry. And I was also watching an interview on The Hollywood Reporter. That interviewer was shit, by the way, but it's a good interview just to watch the cast talk about it. And Adam McKay, the director, was talking about how Dr. Burry's character, like the real life guy, actually had to have half of his stomach removed because of all of that, like all of that stress that he was dealing with. And we're not the mindfulness podcast, but it is important to note that if you are dealing with stress and you're not dealing with it properly, it will manifest in your body.
Yes.
And that's how people get sick. And they were talking about how the people that short on Wall Street look physically sick And it must be that prolonged sort of stress.
It is, for sure.
That goes on. Well, we haven't talked about the young guys, Jamie and Ben.
Oh, yeah, they're fun.
Yeah. I love seeing Finn Rock as a serious character instead of Dandy from American Horror Story.
So these are some young guys operating out of their basement, and because I don't really understand this world, when they were pitching and saying that they made 110 to 30 million, I'm like, oh, this is amazing. When you realize to be with the big leagues, to be with the big dogs, you need to be
billions.
Yeah.
Billions. Yeah, freaking sit at the table. Yeah, so their thing was they took some money that they, earned or whatever, like you said, earned rowing or doing his summer job. They got some clients, they invested their money wisely, and they made $30 million, $50 million, something like that. And that's, hello to you and I, that's fucking amazing.
Yeah.
But to want to play ball with like big boys like JP Morgan Chase.
Yeah, these are with banks. Like, you guys aren't a bank. You are little investors.
You're a little broker. Yeah, you're a little firm.
And so they're like, you need to be on our level. And you're not.
And you're not. And they didn't even know how to be on their level, which is kind of the sad thing. They like wasted their time, and it was the end of the day on a Friday. And like, who takes a meeting at 4:00 on a Friday? Not me. But that's kind of where Brad Pitt's character is introduced. They know him. They met him in Colorado, and I fucking love him in this movie. He's like such a hippie. I believe that seeds will be the new currency, like he said. But Brad Pitt plays Ben Rickert, who is a retired investment broker or something like that. So these guys call him in to help him out, to look at because did you talk about Ryan Gosling's character and like who he was?
No, we're going to come back to him. But you can go into it. That's fine. So
the guys happen to find it's like a pitch book or whatever they call it. Their dossier. So they happen to find Ryan Gosling's dossier because Ryan Gosling is hip to the fact that Christian Bale's character has bought these bonds to short the mortgage market, the housing market, and then Ryan Gosling's character, Vinet, he does his investigating. He realizes that it is factual. So now he's trying to sell it to these banks. Nobody's taking him seriously because they're like, the housing market is super stable. Fuck off. And he was sitting in the lobby as well, kind of like those guys were. And he left his book on the table. And the way the story tells it is these two guys, they found his dossier and broke down what was going on. And they wanted in to be able to buy these bonds or these shorts. So that's why they use Brad Pitt to come in, because he knows he's well received, and they have him verify what they think. And Brad Pitt's awesome. He's kind of weird.
He thinks the NSA is listening to his fucking... He has 15 different fucking phone numbers. What kind of crazy shit is that?
You're calling me on the wrong number. I have to hang up.
He's like completely off the grid. And I think that's what happens sometimes. If you have exposure to too much information, you can start to get a bit paranoid.
Yeah. I guess so.
The Snowden effect. Tune in next week. But yeah, I don't know, man. There are so many different streams in this film, which is actually quite interesting, because you see, the starting coming from Dr. Buri's character, and no one's really believing him, but he's still going to do what he's doing. And somehow with, bankers, I think he was the way it was set up in the film, he was bragging about it in the club, because that's what you do when you pop bottles.
In the club.
In the club.
Yeah.
And then
they were like, oh, he got us to make him this package that didn't exist before, and he's crazy because nobody defaults on their mortgage.
Everybody pays their mortgage. Did that year. Everybody pays their mortgage. Duh. No.
Not in 2006 to 2008.
Yeah, so you have like different angles of people discovering and in most ways, in big ways, benefiting from this sort of crisis, right? So you have Ryan Gosling's character and, you know, him being laughed out of banks, like you just mentioned, and him having interactions with Baum's character and his little firm upon an accident. And then, you know, these young guns, Ben and Jamie, also finding it as well. So you have different streams of them experiencing what's going to happen. And, you know, it's whether you want to call it a faith thing or a facts thing, you really need to back yourself because it will be so easy, especially when they started to see, I think it was in 2007, it actually started to rise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So even though you know it's all full of shit and everyone that is, you know, churning this shit is also made of shit, there's nothing you can do because there are too many regulatory bodies that are backing each other.
Yeah.
Right. And they're concealing information.
And that was an interesting scene when Baum went to the creditor lady.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not really sure what that's called, but they're the ones that assure the ratings, right?
Something in pools.
It's Standards and Poor's.
Standards and Poor's.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then she had on these glasses because she was this old lady trying to play this little.
I think she got her eyes dilated.
Yeah.
Did she? But I felt
Yeah, she went to the eye doctor.
I felt it was more. I felt it was more like, feel sorry for me. I'm an old lady. I don't know what I'm
an
doing.
old lady. Where are the papers?
Yeah.
She was that old though.
But
Oh, it was
I think she got her
symbolism of
eyes
they don't see
dilated.
shit.
Yeah.
oh wow.
Right. Okay.
OT.
Yeah. Right. I can't see shit.
Wow. Lady Justice is blind. Look at you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Wow. You were too deep for this podcast. Maybe you need to be on Book of Lies.
He's super deep.
But in that scene, she, you know, she's a quaint lady. She's like, oh, you know, I don't know. This is how it works. And then when it gets to the pointier end of the conversation, when Baum is essentially like pulling her up on her bullshit, she starts to rear her thorns. And she's like, what are you benefiting? What are you benefiting out of this? And it was
Yeah,
just
how many do you own? How many of these how many of these bonds do you own?
Exactly.
And he's like, that's none of your fucking business, bitch.
Rightly so. But something interesting that Baum's character says, because she kept saying she didn't know and we're just, you know, this, I'm just doing my job essentially. And Baum's character says something very poignant and he says, so does that mean you have no hand in this, that you're not guilty at all just because you're working and you're not in charge of all of that? I thought that was quite poignant. And I think that
she's
was
like, I
quite
have
good.
bosses. She's like, I have a boss.
Yeah. Blame my boss. I'm just doing whatever
Yeah.
it is that he instructs me to.
Yeah.
And
And,
you-
their issue was that if we don't rate it, they're going to go to the competition.
Yeah, and I think that was a nice little, because they were, as fun and as satirical as this film was, there were some tasty sort of morsels for you to digest and really think about. And that was one of those moments. I
Yeah,
think.
because the system has checks and balances, which is supposed to regulate everything. And then
is
if
them.
those are not doing their job and they're turning a blind eye on everything that's happening, because every bond that they're being presented, they're just giving it AAA,
Right.
which is crazy. It's quite criminal to think that no one got arrested out of this apart from some bloke.
Who was
just
kind
one
of
dude.
doing what everyone was doing anyway.
Yeah.
It wasn't like he was
But
doing anything.
there was so much fraud. So not just the banker who got arrested at the end of the day, but like one character that they bring in, one celebrity that they bring in to explain something, you know, R.I.P. Anthony Bourdain.
Yeah.
But you know, he explains the CDO. And the CDO is a combination of all of these different mortgages that are rated at AAA, AA, if it's a triple B,
Yeah.
and
All the way down to like B's.
Mm.
Or
Yeah.
is it C's?
I don't think they mentioned anything about C's, but what they're saying is these mortgages are like the credit rates. So if it's like a AAA, it's like, oh, you have a 800 FICO score, you pay your bills, you're reliable,
Yeah. You're a safe investment.
you're a safe investment. So the housing mortgage is supposed to be built up of all of these different mortgages that are super reliable and
Mhm.
stable, but they're not.
they're built up of bees.
Yeah. I think that's
garbage.
I think that's a soundbite right there. The world is built up of bees.
Bunch of bees.
SOBs.
Right. And so like he was like, it's like, I'm gonna go ahead and revamp this B and this double B and turning into AAA fish soup.
Yeah. Because you're combining a bunch of B's and then turning it into AAA.
Yeah, just repackaging
which
everything.
It shouldn't be.
Yeah.
I feel like the explanations were very spot on. Like it literally helped me understand exactly, what they were going through and all of the jargon that they were mentioning. So let's talk about the celebrity sort of cameos. Our residential Aussie, Margot Robbie.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently she was
in a bathtub with some champagne.
Apparently she was sipping on some vintage Dom Perignon. And she had like 20 glasses of them. Yes, please.
Yes, nice.
Please.
We'll call it the big reference, OT. Go and get me some champagne. The big reference is also for another time.
Oh God.
Margot Robbie is who we were talking about. But she does quite well as well, I think, in explaining her
she's
role.
perfect. She's perfect. And it's like, when you were like, oh, she's delicious. I love her. She's in a bathtub and she's drinking champagne. I'm going to listen to whatever you have to say. In her explanation of
what it means to short a bond
is spot on, and you remember it because Margot Robbie.
Yeah, she explained what shorting a bond means.
And subprime as well.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, subprime is shit.
Well, okay, so a subprime loan is basically a loan that they were giving out to people who were low income or no income in some cases, apparently, or people who had low FICO scores. They started them at a fixed low rate, and after a certain period of time, that rate became adjustable. So it would jump up to about 50, 60%. And it would fluctuate, and people couldn't pay that 60% interest. So they were basically defaulting on their mortgages.
Yeah. And we also have an appearance from Richard Thaler and Selena Gomez in the casino.
Right.
Because that's where things, because Margot Robbie set a nice sort of precedence of shorting bonds and that sort of thing. But then things started to get quite complicated and interwoven together. So this was pretty much explaining, because we get to a point where, okay, we understand what shorting bonds is. We understand, turning things into fish stew. But how are these people getting away with it? How the fuck is this happening? So in Selena Gomez's particular segment, they were talking about, on that premise where what do they call it?
Synthetic CDOs.
Yeah, but they called it about basketball, a hot hand shot or something.
Oh, when they're taking like side bets.
Yeah. So when you've won for so long, you're not going to fail the next time. Right. Yeah. So I think that crafted it crafted so perfectly what that meant. And it's like, oh, okay. So everyone's trying to back something that they knew was shit all along.
And they're putting that into a bond and selling it as AAA.
And
lucky.
While we were watching this, I was saying to OT, like, what they're doing is shitty. But if it was like a corporate sort of scenario and it was just sales on products, that would be a different thing. But they're actually dealing with people's lives because these are mortgages.
Yeah. Because even short of a man with his daughter who had just bought a house and he was paying rent, but the landlord wasn't paying the mortgage.
Can I just say I was watching The Breakfast Club and Jadena was featuring on there. Apparently that happened to him as well.
Oh, really?
You know Jadena, the
really?
singer? Yeah. He I think they bought a mansion, they leased out a mansion in like Atlanta, Georgia or something, so they could create and work on their album, and for months they've been paying the landlord and the landlord wasn't. So the cops showed up out of nowhere. To evict them.
Oh, shit.
And then Jadena and his crew just went to Africa for a bit.
No.
It's so shady. And that happens a lot.
Really?
It's like you're paying rent.
It happened.
And no, I think it still happens a lot. People like are renting from people and they're not paying the mortgage. They're just collecting that rent, and then you're out of the house once your freaking house is foreclosed on. They're trying to get you out of there.
Yeah, which is ridiculous. Surely there has to be some way to prevent that from happening to people. Because from their end, they're not doing anything wrong. They're still paying their bills. You know, they're paying their money. They're paying rent.
Yeah. Well, you can try to sue the landlord, but he doesn't have any money.
Yeah,
he just off the house.
It's crazy.
Yes.
It's crazy. And even in the film, you know, when Baum took his team out to actually go and look at places.
Oh my gosh. That was one of the best scenes.
But it was crazy because, you know, they were talking to those two super tanned white teeth agent guys.
Well, did you notice who one of those guys was? Did you notice one was Max Greenfield?
I'm not sure.
Freaking Schmitty.
Really?
Who's
From The New Girl.
Oh, we don't watch Do you watch New Girl?
Yeah, I used to watch New Girl, but I didn't recognize him.
Schmidt.
Oh, there you go.
He was like, yeah, strippers. You know, topless strippers.
And that's where you find out that like they're freaking basically issuing these loans,
mortgage fraud, right?
That are garbage.
They called them ninja loans. No income, no jobs.
And then so you have Baum's character asking, you know, is there a barrier to entry? Do you vet them? Do you do credit checks on them? And, you know, they're essentially saying no to everything. And Baum takes his team away and he's like, why are these guys confessing?
That was funny.
No, they're bragging. And I think
bragging,
I think that's quite a common theme in the film because if you're selling these properties or if you're assuring them, if you're doing the credit ratings for them, you're not necessarily caring about the actual people. You're caring about the bottom line and meeting your targets and getting bonuses.
Yeah, and it's that industry. It's that boys club. They're like, oh yeah, show me, you know, let me see your W-2. How much did you W-2 last year? Like I used to work in that environment.
How much did you W-2?
Yeah, let's see your W-2. Let's see it. Like I make more money than you. And they're just like, yeah, I'm getting these bonuses. I'm getting these contracts. I'm targeting immigrants. I'm targeting strippers, people who aren't reading the fine print. They're signing it. And then their payment doubles. It goes up 200%. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And they went to that stripper and she took out she has 5 houses and a condo.
And a condo. That's Florida for you.
Possibly like 2 loans on each. Because that's one of the things. The banks will give it, but you need a regulatory body to be like, dude, these guys can't afford it. You shouldn't be giving these loans. And it just wasn't happening because it was in their best interest to let this happen because they'll go to another company, right?
I think the
onus, go and get that assurance.
Yeah, I think the onus also has to be on the people themselves because, yes, you're a stripper. How the fuck do you think owning 5 houses and a condo is ideal? At some point, common sense has to just kick in a bit, you know?
This is a, for your reference, PSA. OT's reflections on strippers does not reflect on KT. Continue.
No, we'll throw those bills together, but I'm just saying, you know, it's.
What I love is that they're like, all of these people that are making the money, like, okay, the stripper and these loan officers, none of them are actually putting their money toward working for them. Because even the loan officers that are making money hand over fist should be like investing or at least trying to make their money work, even though everything just tanked in 2008. So
I bought a boat.
But yeah, you bought a fucking boat. How about you go and put that fucking money and invest it in like fucking Apple?
So what we see in the film, it's a modest sort of model, right? The reason why it fails is because of the sheer population of the United States. Because if you look at the model as it is, you've got a layer of solid, genuine AAA sort of loans, right?
Right.
And then, you know, just to offset the high risks of, you know, the B sort of loans, you kind of fit some of them into that stack.
Yep.
Right. So it's going to be fine and it's stable for the most part. But, you know, America has like hundreds of millions of people. So if you put it on that sort of scale, it was going to fail. It just made sense in the numbers. And I think that was something that was missing as well.
Yeah. The problem was that the people who should have been buying houses already had the houses that they wanted. They weren't buying all the houses.
Yeah.
And the American dream is to own a home.
Mm-hmm.
So all these people who could not afford to buy homes suddenly were being offered this chance to buy this house. And most of them knew they wouldn't be able to afford it. And they were talked into these loans by, they were enticed by these low rates, and they didn't read the fine print and find out that the loan was going to go up. So all the people who shouldn't have been buying houses started buying houses, and it's basically screwed them and screwed the country for a while.
Yeah, and I guess it's one of those interesting things that you see in the film, because we saw, that man with his family in their home. And then later on in the film, we see that they're actually hopefully trying to move somewhere, but they have everything in their car and they're trying to make their way through. And I guess that's when it becomes more of like a human sort of story.
Yeah.
Yeah. It, like in California, it's expensive to live in this state. And a lot of people and a lot of businesses are moving to Midwestern and Southern states because it's way more affordable. And the places that they were like focusing on in the movie was like Florida, New York, and California, because those are some of the most expensive states to live in, and that's where people were buying houses.
Yeah, so we pretty much get to the point in the film. I don't think we really see Dr. Buri's like family, but he does mention he has a son and a wife.
There's just a picture of them,
Yeah, which I think is fine because we're not really focusing on like people's families anyway. Aside from like Barnes' character, we get to see Marissa Tomei, who we fucking love.
Marissa Tomei, yes,
and they work together in Love,
Crazy Stupid
Love.
Yeah, which is another film by Adam McKay,
and Ryan Gosling's in it too.
The whole cast reunited in that movie.
Because Adam McKay has done quite a lot of comedic stuff like Anchorman, The Other Guys, which I think is underrated, which I really
love.
Wait, let me just ask you guys, how do you feel about Will Ferrell?
I enjoy Will Ferrell.
Yeah,
I think he has his moments.
Yeah.
Certain things I'm just like, okay, this is funny. Like I love him in Elf, but sometimes I'm. You would think like these children would keep these children away from me.
She's obviously not a fan of Will Ferrell.
Yeah, clearly.
She's definitely not a fan of Will Ferrell. She heard his name and she ran up here screaming, pissed.
I need to let the world know it's not okay. There was a time I was obsessed with Will Ferrell, and that was during like Anchorman time, and OT just didn't.
I just don't get it. I don't see it. I don't understand how it's a thing, but
if you talk about like, the giants in American sort of comedy, like comedians, I prefer him over Jim Carrey and Adam Sandler.
I used to love Adam Sandler. He's not so funny anymore because all of his jokes are the same.
Yeah.
And all of his movies are the same movie.
Well, there was a point Adam Sandler was really big. Yeah.
That's terrible.
What?
Jack and Jill. When he plays his twin sister.
Yeah, that's
and he has that voice. Oh my gosh.
I think there are some points where you see the poster and you know it's not going to get better, so you just leave it alone.
Yeah.
No, but people love Adam Sandler. He brings in the money. He makes a movie, people will go and watch it.
Yeah. There's Adam Sandler diehards.
I like him. Like I'll watch him on Netflix. I'm not going to the theaters to watch him, but I'll stream it on Netflix. He cracks me up. He's funny to a certain extent. Like I love that he's bringing Jennifer Aniston into the mix because OT, don't you talk about her because I know how you feel about Jennifer Aniston. I will come for you.
I love Jennifer Aniston.
Oh wait a minute, I got it mixed up. Katie, I will come for you.
She's like,
that was the universe.
Because you guys have watched Friends, right?
I love Friends.
You know what? I can take it or leave it. Like, I don't really care about Friends.
I love Friends.
I don't want friends.
I don't want one friend.
I don't want friends. I don't need friends. I just, aside from the fact that Aisha Tyler was on there, I like that.
Yeah, she's like the only person of color on there.
Gabrielle Union was on an episode.
Yeah.
That's
So
what I
that
said.
counts. But yeah,
Brad Pitt was on there too.
really?
Yeah, he does. Yeah, he was like, take off your shirt, Will, and tell us.
Is that where the Brangelina started? Not Brangelina. They
No.
didn't have a name, did they? Brenna
Brad
Fry?
and Jen. They were actually married when he got on that show, or when he went on there.
Yeah.
But that was a good episode.
Well, there you go.
He hated her. You would love that episode, Katie. He hated Rachel.
Oh, good. Oh, good.
He hated her. He was like, we're in the I hate Rachel Green Club. And remember the rules? You have to hate her for life. and then like he finds out that Ross and her have a baby and didn't marry her. And he was like, yeah.
I know what I'm doing after this.
This is not the Friends podcast.
Sorry, my bad.
That's okay. So let's go back to the film in way of Brad Pitt, because he says something quite interesting at the end of the film, because Ben and Jamie were like, thank you so much. Like, we really appreciate it. But why? Like, we really appreciate you doing this, but why did you help us? And then he pretty much said, you guys said you wanted to be rich, and now you're rich. Is that really
That's
a thing?
Perfect. Well, I wish somebody would do that for me.
Right?
Yeah.
But I guess he is altruistic about it. He's like, okay, I'll help you.
I'll help you get what you want. But there's that scene when they're in Vegas when they decide to short the double A's or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
They make
Yeah, because nobody was doing it.
because no one was doing it and they wanted to take less of a risk. But they were excited. They're screaming. They're high-fiving. And Brad Pitt was like, stop fucking dancing.
Yeah.
And he was like, do you realize what we've done? If your bet pays off, the country's fucked. Knock it off. Don't dance.
And again, I think that's one of the moments where it brings it back to reality, because especially when you're watching like a film, it's fun to get caught away in like the fanfare and the salaciousness of everything, but this really grounds that moment again where it's like, oh fuck, like these are actual people like that are being affected right now, and it's like, take the money but don't be a dick about it, essentially.
And you know what? For me, it's more like, okay, it's all well and good in the movie for them to say, hey, people are going to lose their jobs and shit. But where were they? They didn't tell anyone.
They didn't. But also, nobody was going to believe them.
So
nobody was looking. Nobody was paying attention.
Yeah.
But where does that stop? Like, you could have gone to anyone. I know this.
Any news outlet.
Yeah.
For sure.
Like, it's just ridiculous. They all made their money.
But they went to the New York. Was it the New York Times?
The Wall Street Journal.
Oh, the Wall Street Journal.
They did. They
Wall
went to a
Street
writer.
Journal.
Well, they went to their
But
buddy.
the Wall Street Journal
and
reports on Wall Street. And so most of the time at the time, they were reporting good news.
It's interesting,
Now it's
isn't
all
it?
Death and doom.
Because they didn't want to touch it, and I don't think I don't even know if there's a journalism side in America that actually pulls people up on their bullshit in regards to Wall Street, right?
There is not. Well, actually, there are, but they're more underground. So it's definitely not mainstream journalists.
Yeah, that's interesting.
You have to go online to find that information.
And if you do choose to cover a piece like that, then you've burnt your bridges. Even though, even though you're supposed to be, well, as citizens, you would want to believe that there's an independence between, journalism and who they're reporting on. But in the real world, that's not the case.
Mm-mm.
That's not the case.
Rupert Murdoch, hello.
Yeah, right.
Oh, he's an Aussie.
He's such a...
Yeah, Rupert Murdoch is an Aussie, and now he owns Fox Corp.
Yeah. There's was it HBO or was it Showtime? There's a recent miniseries with Russell Crowe.
Showtime.
Called The Loudest Voice, which is kind of like the forming of Fox News as well. I'm not sure if you guys have checked it out. It came out recently.
Yeah, they're just talking about how Fox came to be, because every other media house was so focused on left-leaning policies and politics. So
where did the right go?
Where did the right go?
What did the right watch? Yeah.
Exactly. So you focus on your niche and you just go hard at it.
Yeah, and it's
What was that? Did you just say niche? Just kidding. It's niche. I
know. For our For Your Reference listeners, or if you've you've come from the Book of Lies town into For Your Reference, we mentioned this a lot, where Oti didn't know that some Americans, not all, some Americans pronounce niche as niche.
Yeah, they do.
Is it a
That's
state by
annoying,
state thing, or is it just a person by person thing?
No, it's a person who refuses to speak English thing.
and that's a category.
Ready, tell it like it is.
And that's a category we need
Like,
gloves to
honestly,
touch.
it is.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. But oh wow. I think I really appreciated this film, and one of the interesting things about this particular film is it was the first directorial dramatic sort of debut for Adam McKay, because we did quickly mention his other movies as well. I think he did quite well in this sort of role.
Yeah,
I liked it. Yeah,
I really enjoyed this movie as well. I watched it on Netflix. I didn't go to the movies to see it, but when I did see it, I was just like, wow, this is great.
yeah, it's great viewing, but the reality of it is just really shocking, and you're like sitting there after the movie
For sure.
thinking, "Fuck."
yeah. It basically it pulled the covers. It pulled the curtains back on what actually happened.
Mhm.
Because if you've ever seen Too Big to Fail, that was from the bank's point of view after this happened, because the banks were gonna die.
At the end of the film, they have those like sort of ending title sort of scenes, and it was mentioning that in 2016, Bloomberg was saying that banks were reselling with a different term, but it kind of looks like it's the same thing again.
Assidios.
Yeah.
It was called Tranche. Was it Tranche?
Tranche something investments.
Yeah. So they were just talking about how, they said it wouldn't happen or it's never going to happen again, and it might possibly start to happen again based on Bloomberg in 2016.
History repeats itself, and Americans are greedy. So those people that are sitting in those freaking banks making the money, they're going to try to do it again. It sucks.
It's crazy. And we've even had, like, not to this extent, but in Australia, we've been reading that banks are giving out loans to people regardless of whether or not they can afford to pay it. So there's a couple here that took a loan out to buy 4 houses. And then when the interest went up, they were like, fuck, we can't pay this.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh, no.
So they went to the papers and started crying about it. I'm like, fuck off, mate. What were you
They
thinking?
tried to blame the bank.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Like, for damn fucking well that you can't afford 4
Look,
houses.
you guys, it's going to happen over there. Get on it. Call the news.
Call the news.
and it's like, because both of my parents migrated from Tonga to Australia, so I grew up with obviously immigrant parents that would hide like money under the bed and behind the pillow, and just like a really immigrant sort of approach to money. So even if we were offered a loan, I wouldn't take it because I know I won't be able to afford that, especially in Sydney. Are you kidding me? It's fucking ridiculous. Like houses in areas that aren't even great, like not even great areas. Like for a 3-bedroom house, you're looking at 800,000 up.
Oh my God.
Really?
Yeah, and I wasn't sure if that would be shocking because I know you guys live in California and like real estate's weird there as well. But
It
yeah,
really is, but we don't live like in the LA area. Like honestly,
not in Calabasas
I
with the
work in LA.
Kardashians.
Yeah, no. Calabasas houses go for
millions
of dollars. Yeah.
Yeah. But even if you want to live in like in the city, like in Sydney city, not even like a proper house, like just a small couple of bedroom sort of apartment, you're looking at 1.5 million up. And that's like,
oh my God.
Yeah. And it doesn't even make sense. Yeah. They keep saying it's a bubble and it's going to burst, and I don't really know. And there's a lot about like foreign.
That's what they said. That's what they said.
And there's a lot about like foreign investors coming in and then like renting out properties as well. But it's ridiculous. It's crazy.
Well, you keep storing that money behind the pillow, and then once that bubble pops, get you one of those cheap houses.
Yeah, because the prices of houses will drop immediately. Like people, and that was the thing, people were trying to sell their houses and they were trying to at least recoup what they got, and they couldn't get any money for those houses anymore.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because the value just kept going up and up and up, but
it dropped once they tried to start selling their houses. They couldn't get what they paid for it.
Yeah, because you know,
she say? It's a gully. We're in a gully.
Yeah, a gully.
So I was just gonna say that, you know, when there's this saying, you know, fake it till you make it. And I've realized that a lot of people in whatever workspace I've been, a lot of people don't really know what the fuck they're doing. And I would just like to assume that in the banking sort of sector, you'd get people who know their shit.
You would hope.
You'd hope. Because this fake it till you make it crop shouldn't be applying there when you're dealing with people's money.
And you know what? They're probably the same people when the meeting's running over too late and the chair is like, does anyone have any questions? There's always that one motherfucker, and his name's usually Greg, and he always asks questions. It's like, dude, I've got mouths to feed. I gotta go home. Stop fucking asking questions.
Greg, shut the fuck up.
No one cares, Greg. That's why your wife left you. No, I'm kidding.
Dumb bastard.
Oh my God.
Greg's out there. We're not talking about you.
We're talking about you, Greg.
We're talking about you, Greg.
We're looking right at you. You know what I thought was quite interesting, and you know, if we have any final thoughts for the film, we can go through that. But I just wanted to mention Michael Lewis, who wrote The Big Short. He actually has quite an expansive sort of portfolio, because as I was looking into this, he's also wrote Moneyball, which Brad Pitt also stars in.
Good one.
So it's kind of related to this, but he's also written Blindside.
Oh,
weird, right?
So he likes real stories.
Yeah,
it's true, like
his
real life
are
biographical,
not biographical.
Wasn't there a controversy about Blindside though?
A controversy?
Because it has like that white savior.
The white savior
sort of
kind of
thing.
Yeah, the white
thing?
lady saving the poor black kid.
Come on, it was Sandra Bullock.
I do feel like
America's sweetheart.
I do feel like sometimes, because that movie was as far as I understood, people liked that movie when it first came out, and then like years later people are now saying it's not okay. I don't know.
They're scrutinizing it later. Like, she got her Oscar, they're mad. And I mean, at the end of the day, it happens. It happens.
It happened. It's a true story.
It's a true
It's not a
story.
made up story.
Yeah.
And just, you know, because rich white lady helps poor black guy.
Well, she wasn't even rich.
They owned a bunch of Taco Bells.
Oh, was that it? I don't know. I didn't pay attention to that movie.
Well,
They always came home with Taco Bell.
what was the black guy's name? Like, he said that he wasn't even like that.
Something Orr. What was his name? Michael Orr.
Yes.
Michael Orr, yeah.
He said that
He's a football player.
he was a football player before Sandra Bullock came into the picture. Like, he knew about football.
Mm-hmm.
From what I remember.
Oh.
So it was like they just
In the story, they were like, he wasn't really interested in football, right?
And Sandra Bullock taught him everything, and well,
The lies.
They basically
deception.
she taught the coach how to communicate with him.
Well, Will Smith didn't have a Nigerian accent. Are you going to pull him up on that in Concussion?
Why didn't they get a Nigerian actor?
Will Smith can be anyone he wants to.
He could be a fucking genie, man.
Well, he is.
Oh
Did
goodness.
that movie? I think that movie. Did
Concussion? I don't think it did really good.
No,
He
not
thought-
Concussion.
What are you talking about?
Aladdin.
Aladdin?
Aladdin made 1 billion recently.
Well, hot damn.
Yeah.
I
What do you
didn't see
say?
it.
Well, hot dog.
Hot dog it. My dream is to become a
love it
cowboy.
all.
Any final thoughts on the film?
I think
Is there anything we didn't cover that you guys wanted to bring up?
I think we went over everything. But I mean, at the end of the day, like, I don't know if you said it while my child was having a breakdown. $5 trillion disappeared. So those 401ks, savings, bonds, pension, real estate, $5 trillion gone.
That's what sucks. Like, even when people didn't lose their jobs, they lost their money.
They lost their savings. 8 million jobs lost, 6 million homes lost. And that was just in the US.
Wow.
Sad. But you know what?
That's so discouraging, isn't it?
It sucks. We were recovering, but now we've got a
Cheeto? Lord Cheeto?
Yeah, well, the orange dude thinking he can do whatever he wants.
Oh, anyway.
That's all. Not trying to get political up in here.
No, but it's a great movie. If you haven't watched it, watch it.
It is. But you know what? People should watch it because it could and it's likely to happen again.
Yeah, because no one learned anything. They got bailout from the government.
Yep.
They probably
And
all
gave
got to keep
themselves
their
raises.
jobs. Yeah, it's all ridiculous.
The bailout was supposed to help their freaking banks, and they gave themselves raises, the CEOs.
Fucking assholes.
Because they're the ones creating the rules. So obviously they'll create more rules to save themselves.
Unfortunately. You know what, honestly though? We need to just depose all of the rich white men that are sitting in their ivory towers and put real people in them. And maybe we can do a better job. I nominate me.
I definitely agree with that, but I don't think they're going anywhere. I think you just have to wait for them to find their time, and then it's going to happen. Because we're watching Last Week Tonight with John Oliver, who we fucking love. I will follow him to the ends of the earth if he asked me. But he was talking about incarceration and how people that are incarcerated work these manual jobs or any sort of jobs, and they get paid in some cases 6 cents an hour. Right. Yeah. And in one particular case, they were talking about, sanitary products and how you only get like 12 pads for the one cycle. And if you do want more, you need to go to the doctor, and the doctor will determine if you can get more sanitary sort of products. But in order to see the doctor, you need to pay for that appointment. But at $6, an hour, 6 cents an hour, you're not going to get that, right? But the reason why I bring this up is in the sort of tribunal, it was headed by an old white man, and he was squeamish at even the mention of menstruation. And but he's genuinely in charge of, the laws of women and how they're supposed to get sanitary products. So if he can't even take that topic seriously, where is that change going to happen? You just need to wait for them.
It's disgusting. It's disgusting. Go sit in your room. I don't want to see your filthy face. Get out of here. Disgusting.
I love that. That's a great, that's like a character, like character acting. But
you're totally right. Like, if you can't even talk about it, why are you making decisions for me? If you can't even say menstruation, if you don't know, the cycle's different and you know nothing, get the fuck out of here.
Listen, we've had people in high positions think that women can actually lock down their vaginas from being assaulted.
Yeah, it's Come on. You're the problem, not the man.
Oh, of course, because it doesn't take two.
Right.
Yeah, because what were you wearing when that happened?
What were you wearing?
Yeah. Well, why didn't you just lock down your vagina?
Lock it down.
Fucking
really?
ridiculous.
You're an idiot.
But I have another cute kind of related story. We went to Ethiopia, OT and I, and we wanted to go and see this really nice sort of monastery. It was like an Orthodox sort of church, so it was like super OG religious sort of church, and they had a sign at the front because most of them obviously don't speak English, and they had like rules on there, and it was like, if you're a woman and you're menstruating, you can't come inside of the monastery. Which and then they had like some other rules, and one of the rules was if you've had sex within the last 24 hours, you can't come in there. And I'm a very honest person. I wasn't menstruating at the time, but I did.
But, you know.
I did have a good time within that 24 hours. So I was actually going to say something, and OT, the most honest of honest people in the world, he was like,
shut the hell up.
he's like, nah, we're fine. And then we went straight into the monastery. And it didn't burn down around us. So I think we're fine.
No, it's just ridiculous rules.
I was prepared to not go in there.
It's those old wives' tales. Like there's an Italian wives' tale where if you're making red sauce,
you're not supposed to be on your cycle.
A woman can't have her cycle, or the tomatoes will go bad.
My freaking my wave ain't that strong. It's not pulling the tomatoes. It's not turning them. Okay.
So if you're making your own red sauce, you can't make the red sauce. That's what's happening.
Yeah, right. You can't be making red sauce while you're making red sauce.
But I'm pumped.
What a crazy world. What a crazy world we live in.
We've got a lot of them. There's this one from the South where women believe that when you're making spaghetti for a man, if you want to keep him, you include, your red sauce in that spaghetti.
Oh no.
Yeah, there's some crazy stuff. And so people won't eat.
They won't eat people's spaghetti.
They won't eat other women's spaghetti.
Why are you looking at me excited, OT? This is not. this is not what we're doing, mate. We started a podcast to keep the love alive. We're not having love spaghetti, okay? That is insane. That is crazy. I've never heard of that.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's an old wives' tale from southern states.
Do you have any not weird, do you have any sort of Kenyan equivalent?
Not on the top of my head. No, I can't think of anything as crazy.
Okay, we won't expose your people today. They can have a break.
But and you know what it is? It's African American folk tales.
So it's
just make sure.
Oh, okay.
So
superstitious,
because we have our own thing. Yeah.
Everyone's on their own struggle street.
Struggle street.
We're on the struggle bus.
You guys haven't heard that term before?
We say struggle bus.
Oh, okay.
But you said struggle street.
That was fun.
We can't afford the bus.
Yeah, we'll get on struggle bus and we'll head to struggle street.
Where the struggle is real.
It's always there, unfortunately. But thank you so much, guys, for coming onto our podcast and bringing a lot of depth and a lot of information. Not to say we don't have that on other.
That's all you guys do have is depth and information.
Oh, you. And I love how we've had little love fests in between. It's been very nice. But let's wrap things up in the segment we call For Your Reference. And for those of you that are listening for the first time, this is, if you've watched The Big Short and you want some more of it, or if you didn't enjoy it, or, just any sort of recommendations or references that you guys might enjoy. So, Boogle Eyes?
Well, you know what? Too Big to Fail. That one that should be a follow-up to
The Big Short.
The Big Short. Thank you very much. The movie we're talking about, because it follows up with why the banks got bailed out and what happened surrounding the bailout.
Cool.
Anything when Ryan Gosling's shirt's off, boom.
Oh God.
Brad Pitt shirts off, or Christian Bale's yelling at somebody.
Isn't that always?
Always.
You know what? I didn't realize that he's British.
He is.
You didn't?
Because I've never watched interviews of that man.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, he's crazy.
OT recently shocked me telling me that Idris Elba's married, because I didn't realize that.
Now
he just got married.
Unless I want to be a homewrecker. Yeah, unless I want to be a homewrecker, I don't have a chance anymore. So you're welcome, OT.
Yeah, look, I call dibs.
I'm behind you in the line. But yeah, I didn't realize that Christian Bale was British because I've never watched interviews of him. Wow.
Yeah.
It's a crazy world out there.
It is a crazy world out there.
Yeah.
We will reference, is it Showtime?
Yep, Showtime.
The Showtime show starring Don Cheadle and Regina Hall, Black Monday.
Oh my God, love it.
So good. You guys caught up on it?
I actually missed the last 2 episodes, so I have to catch up.
It's really good. And, you know, it's also got the Book of Lies endorsement as well. So definitely check that show out if you can as well. But thank you so much. We've made it to the end of the episode. Book of Lies, Brandy in particular, we did talk about, you know, The Big Short being a book. I do hear and we do know that possibly maybe you're also an author of books.
I am indeed. I have authored 4 books.
Cute.
3 of them being fiction.
Nice.
And we can find that on Amazon, right?
Yes, ma'am. So I hate talking about my books.
So Brandy's first novel.
That's why I brought it up. That's why I brought it up.
Life, Love, and Margaritas.
Nice.
It's by Brandy Felix. And she's done the 2 novellas. The what's the series?
It's the Withdrawal
The
series.
Withdrawal series.
The first book is Smuggled Love. And the second book is
Deception.
no.
Darn it.
It's you see, I can't even
Yeah, exactly. It's something with deception.
the subtitle is Deception and Betrayal.
Okay. And then
it's Double Crossed. Gosh, you see, I can't even. So it's Double Crossed, Deception and Betrayal, and the first one is Smuggled Love, Addiction, and jeez. Anyway, and that the author's name on that is Brandy Hale, and that's my married name.
That's her married name.
Yeah.
And then you did like a financial book too.
I did, and that one is called Money Makeover, How to, and it's a super long title, and that's also on Amazon, and that's written by Cash Carter, who is my male alter ego, and it's Cash with a K.
It.
Actually,
She's crazy.
I can't remember. I'll need to remember who the author is, but they write such different genres that they actually do have different pen names. Is that also why you've got a different one?
And Anne Rice, Anne Rice did that too. But yeah, that's why, to separate the genres from my names.
I don't know.
So when they do an autobiography about her, and she's like, I'm this person, and I'm this person. Wow.
Yeah, you should get us all in the same room.
I don't know if you were expecting me to bring that up, but I wasn't sure if you were going to, and I definitely wanted to make sure we mentioned it.
I was not.
Casey. All of her books are available on Amazon.
They are.
And on a day-to-day, week-to-week sort of basis, where can we find you guys?
So you can find us always on Twitter. I live in the Twitter. So Book of Lies Pod on Instagram, Book of Lies Podcast on Facebook, Book of Lies Podcast online, www.bookofliespodcast.com. And you can email us too if you want at bookofliespodcast@gmail.com.
Nice. If this is your first time here or you just like to hear it again, on Twitter and Instagram, we are For Your Ref Pod if you want to send us an email.
At hello@fypodcast.com.
Also, if this is your first time sampling on the Cliff Notes for Book of Lies, you're most welcome. Please make sure you go over and subscribe to them. Also, leave them a rating on Apple Podcasts because it always helps us go through. Obviously, 5 stars. You've sampled the wares. You know what it is now. And please make sure you give us a rating and a review on Apple Podcasts as well. Thank you so much, guys. We'll see you next week.
Thank you. See ya.
Thank you.